Hey everyone, and welcome to another GameXplain discussion. I'm your host, Derek Bittner, and I'm joined today by Neal Ronaghan of Nintendo World Report to discuss our recent playtime with Metroid Samus Returns for the 3DS. So let's get started. Alright Neal, we are some of the lucky few who actually got to play the upcoming Metroid Samus Returns, as I just said, and just right off the bat, what'd you think?
I am very, very excited for this video game. When it was announced back at E3, you know, there was the immediate concern of Mercury Steam developing it, because they did do that reportedly mediocre, maybe kind of bad Castlevania game on the 3DS, Mirror Fate, which I have not played, but plan on going back to. So there was a concern with that. Also, the last Metroid game that Yoshio Sakamoto produced was Metroid Other M, another kind of questionable game. But the demo that they showed at E3, that they showed on Treehouse Live, and I think a few people got to play there, that seemed really promising. And then going hands-on with that demo, like, we just played the opening of the game, and I did not want to stop playing. No. I just wanted to dive down and sit down and just play that game for hours, because it felt really, really good, and it feels like Metroid, and that's the best compliment I feel I can give it.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely how I felt, because I actually did play Mirror of Fate, and I didn't think it was bad. I know a lot of hardcore Castlevania fans are just not fans of that game, but I had a little bit of love for the Lords of Shadow series until Lords of Shadow 2, and then it sort of just disappeared.
I think that's you and the rest of the world.
Yeah. And so I was like, when I heard this, like, okay, I think these guys can do good work, but they just need a good guiding hand. And they seem to have gotten that, because it is just, like you said, it feels like Metroid. It starts up, you get down, you reach planet SR388, and Samus feels like Samus. Like, my big concern was with the switch to 3D was that she would feel slow and lumbering, and they try to give this sense of weight to her outfit, or to her suit. And I'm like, no, I don't want that. I want to feel this speedy, powerful Samus, and that's not the case at all. It feels like how you would imagine Samus to be, and I was just so delighted playing through that. Like, I'm with you. Like, I have another further connection to this game just because Metroid 2 was my first Metroid game. So being able to see it redone in this way is so cool.
Yeah, I only played Metroid 2 when it came out on 3DS Virtual Console. So I'm coming at it from the other end of the spectrum, where my earliest experiences to Metroid were literally every other game in the series besides Metroid 2. And I mean, it's hard playing Metroid 2 in the modern era, but this game, like, it seems like it has what worked about Metroid 2, like that kind of, you're chasing down after the Metroid, where it's kind of, you know, it's still very much the Metroid style of exploration and, you know, looking for items, or in this case Metroid, but it's like you're more of the hunter and not the hunted in this game.
Absolutely, and it has such a just nice flavor to it. It's, you know, it's kind of weird. You're on a genocide mission. You're out to eradicate them all. And I never got that far as a kid because I was really young when I played it, and I enjoyed what I played, but I could never figure out where to find the rest of the Metroids in order to lower the acid. So I'd continually restart the game and like, maybe I'll find it this time, because I love playing this game, but it's so hard. Like, why can't I figure out how to get farther? But eventually, you know, I went back and played it and actually beat it and was able to experience it, and of course go through the rest of the Metroid series, and it was just so much fun to do. And like, right from the beginning, like as soon as they turned it on, because I'm sure they had the 3D on for you, correct?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a big selling point of this game. Something they haven't really done for 3DS games in a long time, because, like, hey, Pikmin isn't even in 3D, but they are definitely amping up the 3D. And I would say that between the trailer that they have on the eShop and playing this, I was contemplating switching to the 2DS XL when it comes out, but I think I'm sticking with the 3DS, at least through the release of Samus Returns, because that 3D looks incredible.
Yeah, no, like those cutscenes that stand out, and like the layers to them, like it looks very comic booky, it's great. And then you get into the worlds themselves, and just these layers of the world just makes it feel much more alive than you would expect.
Yeah, and I like how they, I mean, the game is a traditional, like, 2D Metroid. It's not like Other M where it was kind of like that. You know, you had some depth to it, like 2.5D or whatever. This is a 2D Metroid, but because it is a 3D engine, they can do kind of cool cinematic cutscene stuff where it's, you know, you enter a room and they show, you know, a Metroid coming in and attacking a creature, or when you're in the middle of a fight, when you use the cool new melee counter system, which I assume we will talk about very soon.
Oh yes.
That when you use that, it kind of cuts to a more cinematic shot, and then goes right back into the 2D gameplay. And as you said, it doesn't feel like it's not held back by the fact that it's a 3D game and not a sprite game. It feels like Super Metroid. It feels like Zero Mission. It does not feel like a chunky 3D game.
No, not at all. That never crossed my mind. I was always surprised with how agile Samus felt. Like, I was doing wall jumps like crazy, like right off the bat. Like, it was just no issue. It was more the new stuff that I was having more difficulty getting the grips with, like the counter, as you said, and then like the 360-degree aiming. I'm so used to the straight ahead, straight above, or 45-degree angle that having this whole wide range of movement is like, oh wait, but it's weird. and
it's got that weird learning curve, but I think it works really well because it is like that like the 360 aiming is similar to how you would, you know, hold down the trigger button and kind of use it as a diagonal. It functions almost identical to that, except for now you just have more degrees of motion. And it took me a while to kind of get a handle on that, but by the end of the end of the demo, which is, you know, about 15 minutes long, it was just up to the first Metroid fight. By the end of the demo, I felt like I had a really good handle on it, and I love that, like, because you have a light emits from your arm when you're in the free aim, and it turns a different color when you hover over an enemy. So I got to a point where I'd be running through rooms and would kind of like have the free aim up and be able to see the light turn, fire, and kill enemies while they were off screen, which was just this beautifully empowering moment.
Yeah, it does that so many times, and I love, like, it feels like Metroid Other M has a lot of problems, but I think a lot of its core gameplay, there was stuff to enjoy about that. It's just some of the decisions related to that. But like seeing them go for that more cinematic edge, especially with the counter moves, is really great. I'm glad they went that extra step. Like, we're just getting the basic stuff right now in this first 15 minutes. Like we saw during the trailer, Samus fighting one of the bigger Metroid types. I think it might be the Gamma. I'm not positive, but like grabbing it by its tail and tossing it to the ground and shooting the heck out of it. Like, that's so cinematic. You don't get anything like that with this, but it's still really empowering to time it just right, get that counter off, and then just decimate them. But I do have one major concern with that, because I think it might, in some ways, break the game. Like, you can easily ignore it, of course, to go classic, but it's there. The enemies are designed to attack you like that, and once you get good at it, you will have no issues.
That's something that I noticed in that first Metroid fight, and I think I have a little concern about it, but probably maybe you have a little more than me. But it was noticeable in that the last part of the demo, fighting the Metroid, where I got to a point where I'd just be sitting back waiting for it to attack me, so that way I could do the counter, and while it's stunned, shoot missiles at it. And that seemed to be like the strategy for defeating that Metroid. And this is a game where the strategies that you use for one Metroid kind of carry on to a lot of them, because you're fighting a lot of the same. I mean, it's only like 5 different types of Metroids.
Yeah, there's really, there's not a lot of variety. They they definitely do get harder. Like, we are fighting the most basic Metroid, and I hope that's where hopefully some challenge will come in, because I mean, the most difficult part of the counter move at this point is learning enemy patterns, seeing when they're going to attack, and timing your counter at just the right time. Like, it's a reward for doing that, but it's also, like you said, very easy to just stand there and wait for them to come to you and not have to worry about it.
The optimist in me hopes that as you progress through the game, maybe that counter move is really emphasized in the beginning, and then as you get further on, maybe they have, like, maybe there's a Metroid who kind of is immune to the counter move, and you have to use other abilities, to use other tactics to take him down. I think if every boss does kind of boil down to counter move and then win, I think that could be a grave concern for this game. But I'll I'll be on the optimist side here and hope that that's not the case. But there's so many variables in this game. What they've shown is so promising, but there's still a lot left that we don't know. Like, what's the zero mission style twist going to be? Because I assume there will be something there.
Maybe it's hard to say, but it would be cool to see them attempt to pull something like that off. Who knows? I mean, it's still like there's definitely pitfalls in there, but I would love to see them sort of mix it up. Maybe use some of your other abilities that you have now, like the 360 motion, where you have to use that more so to get that precise aiming and like dodging attacks rather than worrying so much about countering. But there's also, of course, and they did mention very much so how these are very, very optional as far as they go, the Aeion abilities that you pick up. And the first one you get is a map scanner, which I gotta say is really handy, but it's, I don't know, it would sort of kill the exploration to a degree.
I mean, I like that because we were talking about the original Metroid 2 and it being a very hard game, and some of that was because of the limitations of the Game Boy and the sprite variety that they had. But I feel like having these kind of abilities baked in means that you don't need to worry about kind of, making this game more approachable. You can keep it at a more brutal difficulty because you'll have these abilities that people can fall back on if they have trouble. Like I love these kind of mechanics in games, and I like the idea that I can go through this game and just try to shoot random walls and explore and do whatever I want, and then when I hit a point where I'm like, okay, I know there's something around here, like I don't know, I can see there's some room over here, how do I get to it? Okay, I'll use the scan pulse, see where the breakable walls are, and go from there.
And that's how I felt about it, because I could see people trying to break it, and they did say there's like a bar that you have to refill in order to keep using these Aeion abilities.
Yeah.
But I was like that as well. It's like, this would be really great for that. Like, where that last item is, but you have like one more item to find, but where is it? And you just start scanning. And it has a pretty good range, so you have an idea of exactly where to go. And I like how it brings up like, hey, there's something here and you haven't found it yet. So it's very helpful. I'm also really curious what the other Aeion abilities will be. Like it almost feels like we got the most useful one right off the bat with the map feature.
Yeah, there's a part of me that assumes that, I mean, it could be an incorrect assumption, but based on the scan pulse, it makes me think that maybe these are going to be kind of things that are like buffs more than like brand new like attacks or something. Like it could be something like maybe there's a health recharge one. I don't know. But I assume that it might be like the Aeion abilities, I think in their coolest form in this game are a way to kind of like change the difficulty without having an actual lever for like easy.
That's a good idea. I could actually see that. Like, here's health regen, or here's a way to get more missiles, or something like that, or power up your missiles temporarily. And yeah, you could use them in, like, if your experienced player is using these, and you could have no issue with the game whatsoever. But if experienced player is playing Samus Returns, they're really not going to have that much trouble to begin with. Like, if you know how to play Metroid, you're usually pretty good. You're not going to have too hard of a time with the series. So this is definitely much more for newcomers if we're correct in our assumptions. And if in that way, yeah, I'm down for that. Like, get more people in the series, get more people willing to play. That means we can get more Metroid games.
Yeah, I mean, we already have a guaranteed one additional Metroid game, Metroid Prime 4, and I hope that this game turns out to be really good, and then they keep on making 2D Metroid until the inevitable heat death of the universe.
That would be nice. That would be nice. I'm still waiting for my post Metroid Fusion game. I don't know when it's gonna come, but it's I need it.
Yeah, like I mean, like it's weird because like how does Other M slot into that? Because Other M is basically just like kind of the story of Metroid Fusion in a way. Even if it technically takes place before it, but it's like the same thing where it's like we went on a ship and they, it's exactly modeled after the planet from Super Metroid. What's this gonna be like? And that's Other M and Fusion basically have the exact same structure to them.
Yeah, just no one has X parasites, the other one has, I don't know, something. Mother allegory.
But yeah, I mean, give me my Metroid 5. That's what I want to see next. And maybe that's what'll happen if this game's a success, because you think that this probably will operate as some kind of test for Mercury Steam, and if the game works, then I wouldn't be surprised if we see them sticking around working with Sakamoto for a while.
Yeah.
I mean, that's happened with other Western companies in the past. I mean, like Next Level Games working with Tanabe, and Monster Games for a couple years working on the Excite bots, and then helping out with Donkey Kong Country. Like, that's something that could happen with Mercury's team. They could work with Sakamoto going forward and hopefully make a lot of really cool Metroid games.
Yeah, finally get that Metroid 5 made by them and continue that on and see what they do, because I think Mercury's team has a lot of talent behind them. They just haven't always had the right thing, because especially with the first Lords of Shadow, it was take this idea and slap Castlevania on it.
Yeah, and it was kind of like they were making a God of War style game, and then they had to make it fit Castlevania, and then that's like, I've only played demos of Mirror of Fate, although I'm basically just I need to go out to a GameStop and pick it up. I plan on playing through it before Samus Returns comes out, because I'm curious. But my take on Mirror of Fate was that they wanted to make something that was a throwback to Symphony of the Night while still staying true to the Lords of Shadow name. So they made it a lot more combat heavy, because that's what Lords of Shadow was. It was that God of War style combat, and they wanted to bring that to the 2D game. And I think in that respect, they executed on what the idea for that game was, which was Symphony of the Night meets Lords of Shadow, which made for a Metroidvania with a lot more combat. And if with working with Nintendo and Sakamoto, I feel like they have the chops to be able to, okay, we're not trying to make some like weird fusion of games, we're just trying to make a Metroid 2 remake.
Yeah,
I have a lot of faith in them.
No, I do too, and you summed that up beautifully. It's like how they likely approached it, what they ended up having to do, and the ideas behind it. Now they have a clear direction, they know what they want to pull off, and they can actually do it. They have the backing for it. And I mean, nothing like, I have just those slight concerns about the difficulty as far as the countering and this and the Aeion abilities, but otherwise it plays so beautifully. Like, I really don't have much else to say, because all I can say is it's worth buying. Like, I don't know exactly how the end product's going to end up. There might be a few issues here and there, but on the whole, like, if you're excited for this, it's going to be worth it. I can just feel it.
Like, we went to that Nintendo appointment in New York this week to play this game, along with seeing all their other E3 stuff, and I didn't go to E3, so this is my first time playing Mario Odyssey.
Oh, wow.
Seeing Mario and Rabbids, and we saw the Super NES Classic at this thing, too. And when I was leaving there with a couple other people from Nintendo World Report, all we could talk about was Metroid.
Wow, even
we
above
just kept
Mario.
going back to, like, that game felt so good. Like, oh, yeah, the Mario game's real cool too, but oh, that Metroid game.
It needed to happen. People were ready for it, and especially after, I personally really enjoyed Federation Force, but I know that's not what a lot of people wanted.
Hey, man, Federation, you have brothers in arms over at Nintendo World Report as far as
because
Federation Force goes.
I feel like if you've played that game, you know how it is actually good.
Yeah, and like the co-op stuff is good. We're actually, if you want to join in, me and some of the guys at Nintendo World Report are probably going to try to go back and play through that game again this summer.
I played through it twice near the review stage to help out another buddy for his own channel, so I'm not sure if I'm quite ready to go back to it yet, but maybe.
Yeah, no, I mean, I love Federation Force, and I'm very encouraged by the future of Metroid right now, and the one thing that we can all rag on Sakamoto for Metroid Other M. I mean, the story's pretty bad. It's got some bad plotting. There are good elements of Other M. Like, there were gameplay mechanics in that game that I really enjoyed, and I played that game to completion and had a good time. But it was a critical and sales confusion bomb, and the one thing that we should grip onto with Metroid Samus Returns is that Yoshio Sakamoto was also like the producer, and we have some of the people who worked on Metroid Zero Mission, which, as far as I'm concerned, is the greatest Metroid game ever made.
Wow.
And yeah, whether you fall, whether you're a Prime person or Super Metroid can never be topped. Either way, Zero Mission, I don't think people can really argue that much about Zero Mission's quality, and Zero Mission was a remake of the first Metroid. This is a lot of those same people working with a new team to make a remake of the second Metroid. So that's, I mean, I can't imagine a better group to be spearheading a Metroid 2 remake than the people who also helped make Zero Mission a reality.
No, absolutely. It feels like it's in very good hands. It's obviously in very good hands from what we've played, and As far as Other M, I feel like a lot of its plot problems could be, at least in my most of my major plot problems, could be solved if it took place after the original Metroid and not after Super Metroid. But yeah, that's just me talking as a fan. But as far as Samus Returns, like I said, it's so good right now, and I'm so excited for it. But is there anything else that you wanted to talk about on Samus Returns before we wrap this up?
Other than I can't wait for September to get here. Like this is probably it might be my most anticipated game for the rest of the year. Even with Mario Odyssey, which is a game I'm also very excited for. But Samus Returns is it is aptly named. It's the return of a franchise that I really love, and my preferred style of Metroid's 2D Metroid. So we haven't gotten a new one of those since 2004.
Yeah, it's been a while.
This is awesome. I can't wait.
I feel like they knew what they were doing when they picked Metroid 2 for one of their projects, just so they could use Samus Returns.
Yep.
But alright, well, I think that covers it for our Samus Returns discussion, so thank you for watching, and if you liked this video, be sure to like us on Facebook and Twitter at GameXplain. And Neal, where can they find you at?
You can find me on Twitter at NRON10. You can also find my website at www.nintendoworldreport.com, on Twitter at Nintendo_NWR, and we're also on YouTube at Nintendo World Report TV.
Awesome. And of course, make sure to subscribe to GameXplain for more on Metroid and other things gaming as well. Until next time, bye.